Hey guys, I know I'm a little late on this video. I had a really busy week last week and I couldn't really work on getting this video done, but I finally managed to do it. And today I would like to talk about, a little bit of a fear bomb, right? And we start to see, or at least this is what's being told to us, that these fuel shortages are starting to have a much bigger impact. We may not feel it so much in the United States yet, uh, but globally, there already are countries that are starting to take some action. Now, when I say that we don't feel it as much, is we do, right? Because if you go to a supermarket today and gas station, you definitely see a difference in fuel prices. And with fuel prices, obviously that impacts transportation, and so food prices will go up. Um, I found this website, OCHA. It's giving us some information on this fuel crisis, but it specifically talks about fuel crisis in southern and eastern Africa. I'm going to go ahead and um, read a little bit here. It says, just as life-saving assistance needs to scale up, a new threat in tightening its grip, the fuel crisis, disruption linked to instability around the Strait of Hormuz, and the wider Middle East crisis have driven sharp energy price increases across Africa and beyond. In some places, fuel is still available, but increasingly unaffordable. In humanitarian terms, that is a shortage. Okay, and it goes on to say that fuel is no longer just one of many operational expenses. Its availability and affordability now determine whether aid can reach people at all. So they're saying that because of this crisis now, um, probably some of those operations are being canceled or stopped or paused because it just simply becomes too expensive. Now, you gotta check the sources. I mean, I don't know 100% if this is all 100% true, or if this is something they're throwing at us, to again bring in the fear and panic and so forth. This is how they work, right? They always want the fear and the panic and so forth and so forth. But according to this article, yes, there are disruptions, and I think we've been told that Europe's gonna and other countries are gonna feel it, and other continents are gonna feel this a lot more than United States. But then we go back to the next topic, and it's the fertilizer shortages, which impact food production, manufacturing, and so forth. So we're saying that it says here that fertilizer shortages have dramatic effect on food prices, says Duke of Westminster's firm. I think they're in England somewhere. Fertilizer shortages caused by the Iran war have driven up costs for UK farmers by up to 70% and will have a dramatic impact on food prices globally next year. According to one of Britain's most powerful property and farming companies, Mark Preston, executive trustee of the 349-year-old Grosvenor Group, controlled by the Duke of Westminster, said fertilizer was already quite expensive before the 50% to 70% surge in prices since the start of the Iran war in late February. The effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said on Wednesday could soon reopen, has throttled global supplies of fertilizer crucial to growing food crops. Preston said that although UK crops were unlikely to be affected by this year, as most fertilizer had already been used, the knock-on effect could arrive next year. Farmers are now buying that fertilizer, there's they're sitting on their hands and hoping things will improve, which they probably won't, he said. So I actually questioned this a little bit because I said to myself, well, how come we need fertilizer from uh, rest of the world or somewhere else or from some other area? Can we not have our own fertilizer? I mean, people have animals and so forth, and I mean, this is a natural fertilizer, manure ready. But the problem is that when you have a farmland that's, you know, in, it's huge and massive, you just cannot keep up with having enough of it. So this is a little research I've done. It says why countries still need gas and oil for fertilizer. Because I questioned that. What has the two in common? So it says most of the world's food currently depends on nitrogen-based synthetic fertilizers, which are produced using the Haber-Bosch process. The process requires huge amounts of natural gas to create ammonia. Production speed. Synthetic fertilizers provide nutrients almost instantly, which is necessary for high yield modern industrial farming that feeds 8 billion people. Precision. Chemically fertilizers have exact nutrients ratios NPK, making it easier for large scale farmers to manage crops predictably. And then concentration. It says, let me see, synthetic fertilizer highly concentrated, meaning you need a small amount of compared of the massive tons of manure required to get the same nitrogen. So it appears to me it's still the reason why they needed. Well, I'll keep going because this is kind of gives you the comparison between the manure and the synthetic. The problems with using just manure. Most manure is produced in places with many people or livestock, but the big farms that need it are often hundreds of miles away. Moving that much heavy waste requirement requires massive amounts of fuel, diesel for trucks, as an example, making it very expensive compared to shipping chemical pellets. Um, Not enough nitrogen. Even though livestock produce a lot of waste, they don't produce enough nitrogen to meet current global agricultural needs without causing massive food shortages. And then slower release manure takes days or weeks to break down and release nutrients, which may not match the fast growth cycles of crops. Concentration rings. Raw manure can carry harmful pathogens like E. coli or salmonella, requiring careful processing before it can be used on food crops. So, and then it goes back to the whole countries produce their own. Well, they're saying that self-sufficient. Russia, Canada, and Saudi Arabia have their own natural gas or mineral deposits like potassium phosphate and are largely self-sufficient in fertilizer. So, and then countries like Brazil, India, and Australia often have to import a large percentage of their fertilizer because they lack either the raw materials or the expensive factory infrastructure. So it's interesting how Russia, Canada, and Saudi Arabia are totally independent. They don't really have that problem, and the rest of the world was. So where's the wake-up call? I mean, if they're doing this, why not? I'm not sure how we have it here in the United States, but that would be a path to take, right? And also, I'm not very convinced about the synthetics because even I'm sure there are certain regulations. I don't trust these people, but that are sitting on top of regulating all this, and who knows what's really getting in there. Maybe this is one of the reasons why people are getting sick so much, um, because we're using synthetic stuff. It's being manipulated, and I'll tell you 100%. I mean, I don't think that they're testing this every single day, so there could be gaps in between, and it's all about money. And um, you know, this getting approved by Department of Agriculture will, probably approve something if there's enough money thrown at them. So I don't fully buy it. And again, I always say that think outside of the box. If we have issues with FDA approving medicines and drugs that are extremely harmful for us, without some really really thorough um, testing, just like COVID, right, was a good example. They did fully tested everything, and they did tested this on pregnant women, and then we found out, there were issues and problems, right? And people today facing them, or they were facing blood clots and heart attacks and so forth and so forth. So then it's not always what you tell us. It's not always true. Um, Now also, I found this little um, I searched it regarding fuel shortages. So they're saying that India, as an example, right? As of early of 2026, India successfully reached a 20% ethanol blending target in petrol 5 years ahead of its initial 2030 goal. The country is now actively pushing for flex fuel vehicles capable of running on up to 85% ethanol to curb massive oil import expenses. So, um, before I talk about this, um, again, what's interesting is that we have these massive fuel prices that are, we feel it, right? It's like $4 and a change now for a gallon of regular gasoline. So I'm trying to understand this. Where's the cut? I mean, here, especially in the United States, we have nothing but cornfields, and this is, phenomenal ingredient used to distill ethanol, right? The distilling process is very, very similar to alcohol, right? Use the corn starch, and you fermentate it, and you distill it. Um, it's not really complex process, but we have nothing but corn, and I don't understand why. So if ethanol is the answer, then maybe force car manufacturers um, to build vehicles that are that are capable of accepting flex fuels. I think Ford and some other American brands are already have vehicles that are pre-built and able to accept. They call it flex fuel. So I think it's pretty much the same thing. But I could understand diesel, but regular gas. I mean, it doesn't seem like we're getting that break, and everyone is waking up but us. Um, but if you have other countries waking up and finally doing something about it, then I think this is something that we need to think about, because who knows, this whole Strait of Hormuz could happen again, even if they made some sort of a peace deal. Who says that this doesn't become a problem later on? So what I'm saying is, I think that everyone, around the continent, different continents should be trying to prioritize making that independence for themselves, including the United States, to not ever be threatened by Strait of Hormuz, right? If you really want to do your homework on this, and I think it's achievable. Um, Now, this is interesting because now it says, we'll watch this. Let me just make the screen bigger. 1 second. Let's go.
Well, Asian economies import much of their oil through the Strait of Hormuz, but some are more exposed to the crisis than others. Japan and South Korea have large amounts of oil stockpiled, enough to last more than 200 days. But nations in Southeast Asia have much smaller reserves. They're taking steps to make it last and to stabilize their economies. The Philippines holds reserves for around 60 days. It's moved to a 4-day work week in a bid to conserve energy supplies. Myanmar has put limits on motorists, only allowing people to drive on alternating days. Indonesia, the region's largest economy, is an oil producer, but still imports more than 1/3 of its crude. Oil companies there have started to declare force majeure, indicating they may not be able to fulfill their contracts. And Thailand has banned most oil exports and put price controls over the cost of fuel. The government is also encouraging people to work from home and to limit their travel.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share, subscribe, share with your friends. Hit that thumb button. That'll help me very much to grow. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for watching.